Perfect. So we have everybody here. It's great to meet you, everybody. I'm Asaf Nadler from Addressable. It's a panel on Web3 and AI. What we do at Addressable is we help companies target wallet owners using advertising, use a lot of AI. And prior to Addressable, I did my PhD on blockchain data analytics and AI. So both Web3 and AI are topics that are very, very close to my heart. We have an amazing set of speakers today, and I want to let each of you introduce yourselves.
Thank you so much, Hack Seasons, for having me here. You guys put on the best events. I'm Clara Tsao. I'm the founding officer of the Filecoin Foundation. For those that don't know Filecoin, we're the world's largest decentralized storage network. We have a network of entrepreneurs all around the world, over 2,300 of them, running huge data centers to store humanity's most important information. And we do this with a decentralized storage network, so over 4.1 exabytes of available storage. And obviously, this panel is so important to us because AI is a huge portion of the future of data. And we think it's more important that people also have the properties in the storage layer to be able to tackle the next generation of data that's going to be produced by AI.
Mark here, co-founder of Aether. At Aether, we build distributed GPU infrastructure for gaming and AI companies. You can kind of think of us like a Google Cloud or an AWS, except we focus exclusively on GPUs. And of course, we're decentralized. We don't actually own any of those GPUs ourselves. We effectively aggregate enterprise-grade, high-performance compute GPUs from tech companies, enterprises, data centers, and we make those GPUs available for this global kind of demand for compute that we see fueling the AI and gaming revolution. We are kind of like an Airbnb for GPUs, I think is a great way for most people to conceptualize what we do.
Hi, everyone. Evgeny, co-founder of Fluence. We build a decentralized compute platform, which we also call cloudless compute platform, which is kind of alternative to big cloud providers like Amazon, Google. Like very similar to what Aether does, but we focus on mainly on CPU, but we're also going to have like GPU capacity for AI workloads. And yeah, excited to be here.
So I'm testing. So I'm Josh, founder, CEO of Iris. So what is Iris? Iris is the first programmable data chain. So a data chain is simply a chain optimized to store data. So traditional blockchains can only store small amounts of data, and it's very expensive. And the goal with a data chain is that you can store large amounts of data on chain, think exabytes or more, for a fraction of the cost. And then the programmable component, we're talking about how Iris essentially provides a low-cost pathway to make use of that data within smart contracts, within kind of a verifiable environment. And as it kind of pertains to AI, a lot of our focus is on working around use cases that require whether it's verifiability or much lower cost data, and also kind of a bunch of different other properties that I'll get deeper into during this panel.
So let's start with the kick-off question. So Web3 and AI are often discussed as very separate trends, but obviously there's a lot of synergies between them. From your perspectives and what you're seeing, how is Web3 affecting AI? How AI is affecting Web3? And where do you see your synergies in the companies that you're working on?
Yeah, I can kick it off. I think Web3 actually benefits from all the discussion and buzz around AI these days because the open models of AI are really what blockchain is from the beginning. A lot of blockchain projects are open source, they're community driven. It's away from one centralized monopoly controlling all the information. And today's trend around opening up AI data sets, making sure that people can have access to information and also the compute to do that is more important than ever. And I think actually people understand blockchain to be even more important in the era of AI because the biggest challenge we're going to see in AI, in my opinion, is really how to verify what is a bot and what is a human, and where AI is pulling data from. And there's no better tool to actually achieve that than using cryptographic means, and also thinking about how you can verify how data is stored over time, how data is changed over time, how you can distinguish between a deep fake and AI-generated image, and also how you can compensate users in this day of so much content being recycled. And a lot of artists and people that are creators today on the web, they need financial systems that work in a way where they no longer can monetize off of their own data.
I think there's a huge amount that the blockchain offers the AI community and the reverse as well. But I'll stick within my lane here and talk maybe just about the compute side, right? AI needs really three things: the model, the compute, and the data. We look after the compute side, and I'm sure that many of you have heard of the fact that there's this kind of compute scarcity, right? It's increasingly difficult for companies to access GPUs. People like Elon Musk have come out and said things like, GPUs are harder to buy than drugs, right? And then he goes and establishes a 100,000 GPU data center in an abandoned factory in Tennessee, right? The biggest tech companies are very much monopolizing access to these critical resources. And that means that anyone that's looking to build or pursue performant AI in a world that isn't just an engineer in Google or working with OpenAI has a really difficult time doing it. At the end of the day, there's only so many of these GPUs out there, right? They're all really coming from NVIDIA. They have production limits. A vast amount of those that supply is going to go into the hands of big tech companies. So what happens with whatever's left? Well, what we do is effectively look at all of this underutilized supply and make that supply re-accessible to the market again. And when you think about DPIN, right, the value of DPIN is most often in its scalability. And when you think about the inefficiency and this kind of resource that's now kind of lost to the market, well, what's the most scalable, effective way to redistribute and rebring that back onto the global stage? Well, it's creating this trustless ecosystem that allows independent parties to onboard their own compute, right? There's no middleman. You can create smart contracts. They can trust that if they conduct work in the ecosystem, they'll be rewarded. It really just allows the ecosystem to scale in a way that is simple for the owner of that compute to kind of contribute their hardware. It rewards them for contributing the hardware, but then it allows the user to access it in a way that would take a huge amount of infrastructure to deliver if you weren't doing this in a decentralized manner.
Yeah, I think one more aspect on Web3 is that we're gonna live in the world of AI agents, right? We're gonna see millions of them, if not billions, and they're gonna do some stuff, business, some activity, right? So first of all, what crypto gives to agents is payment rails, right? Agents gonna use crypto 100%. Like fiat is not created for agents; it's just not work the right way. So that's why Web3 is very important for AI because AI agents would be able to pay for stuff, for services. Then the other thing is they would have to interact with each other, and this interoperability protocols and the ways how they talk to each other, partially very conveniently solved by on-chain composability. And so I think chains would play a big role in terms of building these interactions and formats and protocols between agents overall. But we're gonna see, some time also transition because right now a lot of people build agents that sort of fully rely on Web 2 infrastructure, but I'm sure we will see sort of slow transition or maybe fast transition to more usage of Web 2.
Yeah, so I'll provide two perspectives. One's more macro, which is how does crypto benefit from AI? And I think for me, it's just one of those big catalysts for adoption. So I think when we had the hyperinflation that happened in around 2020, that was kind of the big catalyst for crypto in the sense that people started to really hedge against the US dollar. And then we also had NFTs, which was, be it short-lived, but another catalyst for a bunch of adoption across the infra stack as well. And I think for AI, for me, it's one of the first catalysts where perhaps it's not just purely financial as well. So it's not just about financial nihilism or it's about specifically stablecoins. It's about, okay, how can we bring like physical compute infrastructure, physical storage infrastructure, and actually have sustainable revenue as well? Because I think there's been a lot of challenge around these protocols getting to even to like low 8 figures of revenue. And I'm starting to see now a bunch of different protocols, tens, probably soon hundreds of protocols reaching that amount of revenue in the first kind of few years, and that's mostly catalyzed by the existence of AI. So that's kind of the more macro point. To talk a little bit more about why I'm just generally bullish on crypto and how crypto helps AI is I think it supercharges innovation, and that comes down mostly to composability, which is, in more simple terms, it's how do all of these different kind of Legos, how do all of these different services interact with each other? So to kind of selfishly use Iris as an example, it's okay, you can store a bunch of data on Iris, and now you can plug into all of these different services that live on this chain, or you can also plug into services that exist on other chains, like Aether and other services. So you can store your data for a super low cost. You can then monetize that directly on chain. You can then compute on that data and train on that data, et cetera, et cetera. So you get this kind of massive amount of composability by existing on-chain. And I think another way to kind of think about this is that the amount of innovation that can occur on-chain is many, many orders of magnitude more than it can occur off-chain. And to give you an analogy, DeFi has gone further in the last, I would say, 12 months than TradFi has gone in the last 100 years, perhaps. And that's mostly because I can go and create a specific DeFi Lego or DeFi protocol, which can then plug into the other 100 different DeFi kind of infrastructure that exists today. So I think it's very much the same for AI, where you will start to see a bunch of kind of crypto native AI-based protocols, which can all kind of collaborate and work together seamlessly.
Wonderful. Mark, I really liked it how you kind of break down the AI into the model, the data, and the compute that's behind that. And I think we reflected a lot over the past question on how the compute kind of fits into the synergies between Web3 and AI. I want to touch on the data side of that. The data, where is it stored? How is it used? And specifically where blockchains are contributing to decentralized AI, and specifically in DeepIn, with everything that's related to censorship resistance, to data integrity. I would love to get all of your thoughts on that.
I don't think I should speak first here. This is the data queen. I'll give you the mic, please.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to stress on Josh's point earlier that one thing that's wonderful about blockchain is everyone plays together. There's an easy way for, we're working with Aether, we're working with Fluence. We can definitely also work with Josh specifically on a modular approach to how we think about storage at the end of the day. Storage is so important in the age of AI because you can use blockchain today to actually verify where data sets are coming from when you're training AI models. You can look at it from whether an image has generative AI properties in it. And also, you can choose where it's stored. Some people today, when they store with AWS, they don't get to choose where their data center is stored. They don't get to choose the security settings. A lot of people today interact with the internet, and they don't realize they're already in a jail cell of only working with 4 major providers on the web that control most of the data we use. And a lot of people don't even understand the business model of the web being one in which you're giving away your data. The internet using it is not actually free. A lot of people are also today trapped in being able to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on just data's cost. That if monopolies can control that cost, they can drive up the price at any point in time. And today, data is so valuable that because it's in the cloud, a lot of people have to spend a lot of money to even migrate it. And that's actually why when we think about the amount of data that's generated in the age of AI, we're going to see more and more of those walled gardens. And that's why there's a huge movement right now in the blockchain and crypto space for decentralized AI and also decentralized physical infrastructure, because a lot of people wake up to not wanting a web to be just purely controlled by monopolies that most everyday people don't realize they're tapping into. So I think storage is one layer of many, but also at the end of the day, people, for example, in browsers can choose between Google and Mozilla. And I don't think anyone here in this room necessarily is anti-big tech fully, but they also want to be able to have the option to choose rather than having a lack of options. And I think that's why most of us here are so passionate about this topic.
Yeah, I think from a data perspective, again, you've probably heard that OpenAI and these large frontier models have effectively been trained on now all of the publicly available data on the internet, right? We've kind of capped out all of the publicly available data that these bots can go and scrape and pull into these models, such that we're now seeing strategic alliances form between OpenAI and Reddit on a massive database deal there. It's a very interesting place to be because now the data sets that people are required to, well, these big companies are required to access are a little bit different to what they were just a couple of years ago. One of the biggest data sets now that these models have is actually the interaction of people and the models themselves, right? We forget that interaction is a consent-based interaction between us and those models, and I think we often ask relatively personal questions of our AI companion, right? We share a lot of information with them. And I think something that crypto has always been fascinated by is data sovereignty, right? This ability to control your data, to understand where it goes, and ideally pull it back if you change your preference. And that's something that you can only really do on the blockchain. Maybe from a macro data perspective as well, crypto has a really interesting place to play from a deep-in perspective, right? Because we don't just want, say, text-based data, right? We need maybe weather data or driving data or spatial data or video data that is relevant for robotics. And again, gathering that sort of data in a centralized manner is incredibly expensive. But you have a network of sensors and devices that consumers purchase and plug into a network and then are incentivized through a token to provide that data back into the ecosystem. And you have a scalable data gathering network that far exceeds anything that's kind of possible within a centralized institution. Even the weather the weather DPINs that are operating on top of like IoTex and some other chains in crypto already drastically exceed the number of sensors that are operated by the Weather Bureau in the US, right? And this is without them even being, massive market cap projects, right? So I think from a data perspective, we have this kind of almost moral place that we want to play from a crypto perspective and like the data sovereignty side, but we also have this kind of really big role to play in how we capture and gather data. And then of course you ask yourself the question, where are you going to store all that data? Probably something like Filecoin.
Yeah, and I wanted to illustrate another weather DPIN example. There's a company called WeatherXM. The founder is a huge avid kite surfer, and he was very confused why it was so hard to find accurate weather data in the Greek Isles. And it's because today's incentive structure for weather stations are only serving large places where large weather companies can actually monetize. And if you have a decentralized network of physical infrastructure like weather stations that you can put up in remote areas, and if you can also incentivize that person to make it even better, to collect even more accurate data, and then put it back on a network where other people can access, you can actually offer more knowledge to the world in places where today there just wouldn't be that incentive structure to capture it. So a lot of people forget that the data that we access on the web are extremely biased, right? And Google search does come from advertising. It's not the ubiquitous data that you would actually find in a library system. And we already are training off of biased data that come from existing structures of the web. And so for us to be able to collect data that comes from all sources and sensors and have that incentive model built in, I think that's the beauty of all the projects up here today that are really thinking about the importance of physical infrastructure and also a network where you can share back that data and also have the right access controls to be able to make sure everyone can access it equally.
Absolutely, and this time we'll start with you, Josh. So I'm very curious about what are the means in which you're using AI in your own companies as companies leaders. I think one of the things that's very, very interesting in the Web3 space is a lot of the people in this industry are very much early adopters. So people are very rapidly changing and adapting, which is something that is kind of very unique to this space. There was a recent tweet by Brian Armstrong from Coinbase saying all of the engineers are now onboarded into Cursor. Everybody are working using AI. And I can share personally in Addressable, you were attaching, Mark, on how Reddit and OpenAI are sharing data. The first thing that we did with that on marketing was we started spraying ads on Reddit, so OpenAI would recommend Web3 ads to everybody using Addressable, kind of in how to tap into that. So Josh, starting with you, how are you driving AI into the company and how are you using that?
Yeah, I mean, we mostly use AI internally for everything, and I am constantly pushing my engineers to use AI, and I'm smiling because they would kind of message me, and I'm like, well, what does like Claude say? Like I do not answer a question that AI like just doesn't like that AI could answer for me. So I think more operationally, I think I kind of push everyone in my team to use AI pretty heavily. Personally, I never use Google anymore. It's just not. Well, I use it very rarely, and I mostly just use kind of AI, whether it's Claude or ChatGPT, to do everything. And I've even done more complex things. I work sometimes on the research side of the team, and AI can give you a much better perspective than, to be honest, most engineers can. Whether you want to learn about very kind of new consensus mechanisms, whether you want to kind of summarize papers, AI is both quicker and probably better than most of the engineers and technical people that you know. So I think bias here being that we're obviously a very engineering-heavy team, so I'm giving you an engineering answer, but that's kind of the number one way that I think Iris makes use of AI internally.
Yeah, I think it's nowadays you don't even need to push people to use AI because AI already in all the tools. It's just integrated. You know, it's in Notion, in Google Docs, like we see that designers we're working with essentially just using AI to generate pictures mainly. They do less work. I mean, they can produce more stuff in a lower amount of time. Engineers in the team, they just use like Cursor and a bunch of others. So it just happens because people want to work less and achieve more, right? So and these tools already just AI already integrated with the tools you're already using. So it's just a seamless transition to using AI for most of people.
Yeah, I've got a maybe not necessarily a work use case, but it could be a work use case. But I'm a gamer. I love games. I'm playing Cyberpunk 2077 at the moment, a few years behind. But I have ChatGPT open in voice mode, right, as kind of like a gaming assistant. And whenever I get to Cyberpunk 2077 is famous for if you make like a certain decision, you might block off a certain path that your character can go, and that gives me anxiety, right? I don't want to miss out on what might be a better ending to the story. So I'll just be like, hey, ChatGPT, I'm on like level da-da-da-da-da, and this guy's just asked me that question, like what should I do? What decisions does this kind of result in? And because it's in voice mode, it's just like having a conversation with someone that's sitting on your shoulder, and it's really, really cool. But I will say that I haven't utilized that as much in my professional life because I struggle with the failure right now of the AI to recognize a natural pause in human speech, right? It's fine when I'm just playing a game because it doesn't really matter. But if I'm talking and I'm actually thinking, right, through a problem and AI just starts computing an answer when I'm halfway through a sentence, that's really kind of disruptive. I mentioned that challenge to a friend of mine at dinner the other night, and he goes, have you just told the AI not to interrupt you? And I'm like, shit. Like that's the craziness of AI in that the solutions to many of the problems that we have are actually just a prompt away. Yep. They're not code away, right? The technical distance between what we want from our interaction with AI is often just phrasing in a human language prompt. And that's what's so crazy, right? We're almost having to train ourselves in the same way we trained our parents how to interact with Google, right? Stop asking long questions to Google. And now it's like, okay, they were right. That's how we talk to AI, and I have to kind of reprogram myself. Okay, yes, it can answer these odd questions to strange, unique queries that I have in my experience.
Yeah, it's teaching AI social cues. And on the gaming use case, this is so funny. I was playing a poker tournament here in Hong Kong the other day, and I'm so bad at poker. I was thinking, should I have AI by my side to kind of ask about my cards and what are other people doing? But then I was thinking, would this be considered cheating?
Yes, cheating.
Absolutely cheating, which is why I didn't do it. Claire, do you want to reflect on that?
Yeah, we find AI so interesting, especially for what we do day to day, because we have backed up so much of the web. We back up Internet Archive, if you've ever used the Wayback Machine, all of the internet history. And one thing that's so beautiful about the age of AI agents and a number of companies that we're working with is we not only can store data, but we can unleash new information in an easier way than has never been accessed before. We work with an organization called Muckrock that that takes care of freedom of information requests in the U.S. and you have you have very secure documents that have never been shared with the public before that are publicly released, but really hard for people to parse through. And today we can use AI agents on top of existing decentralized storage to be able to bring people access to new information of archives, from Smithsonian archives where we're uploading Alexander Graham Bell to new ways of learning. I always think about how complicated crypto is because we're constantly shipping new code, we're constantly shipping new versions of helping developers learn. And we've also used AI agents to make it easier for our ecosystem to find internal documentation that's just parked here, here, and here. And so I think for me, we're really optimistic and embracing about AI just because it makes data even more accessible. It makes hard to find information even easier to find. And we're hoping we can also live in an age where AI is actually trained off of as much useful data as possible, not just what is the preferred data, and making sure we can really reduce the amount of data silos.
Amazing. I want to touch up on the use of blockchain data, which is open, verifiable for training AI models. I remember when starting Addressable, I came originally from cybersecurity, where you used to kick off a startup and you'd have no data to start with. All of that was blocked until you had like your first client, second client, then you would start to pick up. Starting a data company in blockchain was amazing. I mean, it started with so many open data. In the level of openness and depth is amazing. Seeing all of this financials and identities, in our case, for instance, for understanding user behavior to help companies grow. I want to hear from you, how are you currently seeing the open data of the blockchain being used to train AI models, to use that? Where are you currently seeing that? Where do you think that will go?
Well, I think like a blockchain data is right now mainly transactions, financial transactions, right? And one of the biggest sort of use case in Web3 and crypto overall is trading, right? Trading bots. So essentially, I think now huge part of trading bots is already AI powered. It's already like a more comprehensive AI models who do all kind of stuff, and that's very different things. It's like it could be probably less high frequency trading, but more things like okay, how do we earn money on meme coins, right? How do we identify the right meme coin, enter early, exit at the right moment, and so on, or like arbitrage and stuff like that. All of this right now actually AI powered, and you sort of feed in the data from blockchains and try to see what kind of value you can extract from the like newest blocks or from historical data. So I think that's already massively deployed. It's like already happens. And if you try to create a trading bot right now that not uses any AI model, it's gonna, it's depends on use case a lot, but you're gonna have issues competing with modern AI.
Yeah, I mean, to riff off of that, I guess a slightly random example, but a project within our ecosystem, is working on aggregating all of the data from KOL calls, specifically on Twitter, and then matching that with kind of monitoring kind of on-chain liquidity, and mostly for Solana shitcoins, basically. And they essentially use AI to predict whether a token is going to go up or not based off of these kind of different inputs, which is mostly around kind of who are the KOLs calling specific meme coins, and what is their past performance, and how is that matched to the actual like the price curve for each of these different tokens. So that's kind of one example of I guess kind of not quite a trading bot, but a kind of a combination of like looking at on-chain metrics around kind of liquidity, and then also kind of looking at the kind of the social layer of KOLs.
Yeah, I've got an example of a project that I quite like. I've just realized I should probably introduce them to you. And they're kind of like a bit tensor, right, for data, in that I think we understand the bit tensor model, or we think we do, but it's different subnets for different actions, right? Well, think of this as bit tensor, but different subnets for different data, and anyone can spin up a subnet. So, for example, if you think that traffic data will be valuable, you can spin up a subnet that incentivizes people to contribute traffic data, and then you have this kind of validation layer that exists within this project that kind of parses and processes that information, making sure that only valuable, non-duplicate information is brought into the ecosystem and rewarded, and then it acts as this publicly accessible marketplace for that data on the other side, right? And it uses the blockchain to kind of track and validate that data so that we kind of know that the people that are contributing are actually contributing valuable data. They're not just doubling up and gaming the system. Project's called Diffusion. I think they're doing a really, really interesting thing, and it's a great way, again, to tap into the blockchain, tap into the incentive structures that we have in the blockchain, tap into the ability of the blockchain to help us manage the integrity of data, and you know, reward people for contributing data in a way that's meaningful. I think that, yeah, the blockchain has a massive role to play in how we manage and propagate data.
Yeah, and I wanted to use, I know we talked about trading and other more blockchain-specific use cases, but I also want to talk about everyday use cases of data that I think blockchain can really unlock than ever before. A lot of people in the US have difficulty accessing healthcare data because of HIPAA requirements, and a lot of what we can do with fully homomorphic encryption and other blockchain properties is to be able to show certain instances of data showing that they come from trusted sources, but also be able to look at population trends to say, how many people in the US have blah, blah, blah. And a lot of this data today is unfortunately walled off because of existing policy and regulation that need people to have privacy over certain aspects of data. And I think there are so many data sets out there that today are underutilized that blockchain can really unlock if you can also teach policymakers how certain properties work. So I think there's so much out there that can really disrupt the way that we understand particular industries and also be able to share more information at scale to the world that is public.
Perfect. So we're nearly at time. So one last question. If you're trying to predict in 5 years, where will we see AI with decentralization, blockchain? What would you forecast for that future? And we'll try to capture that quick because we're nearly running out of time.
Yeah, I think that the experts in the space, the gigabrains, are all predicting AGI within the next kind of 1 to 5,000 days, right? So this 5-year window is right within that space of time. So I think it's incredibly difficult to even begin to predict what the world's going to look like in that sort of time frame. But I can say that regardless of who gets there first, regardless of what the tech looks like, it will be utilizing the blockchain, whether we like it or not. Right? What is difficult about our interaction as people, as humans, with the blockchain is not something that's equally difficult for agents, right? We've built a series of protocols that have a lot of human complexity, but not a lot of programming complexity. And a bunch of agents will be able to navigate that system effectively, efficiently. And there's a lot of problems that we know, if you abstract away the complexity, just make a lot more sense to solve on the blockchain. So I think that anything that we start to route towards agents will just inevitably end up on chain for certain types of solutions, whether it's built in Web3 or not.
I also certainly cannot predict the future, but one of the cool aspects that I really want to see is sort of self-hosted agents and sort of like sovereign agents that are able to, choose their execution environment, where they are hosted. Like the agent should be itself be able to pay for its self-execution and say like, okay, I want to be at Aether, or like tomorrow I want to be at Fluence, or I want to replicate myself across several networks. I want to be also in the cloud at the same time. And like this sort of agency, like full agency of like really maintaining existence of itself is something that I think it's not happening now, but something that I really want to see in the future, because if agents have this ability, they have the balance of of their financials, which they can allocate to maintain their existence. That's sort of the sovereignty, right? That their self-sufficiency. So this is something I really want to see, hopefully sooner than in 5 years. But this is like a really cool thing.
Yeah, I guess to riff off both you guys, I think the main benefit of crypto is that there's a massive efficiency benefit. So again, I'm not going to try and predict the future, but it's to kind of riff off what you were saying about how blockchain is obviously going to be part of the solution, is that it's inherently orders of magnitude more efficient. And in the case of agents, it's not so much they'll choose to use specific platforms. They'll probably choose to use whichever is cheapest, whatever is fastest, whichever is best. And it comes back to the original point that the place where there will be the most innovation is going to be crypto, simply because that is the mechanism of being on chain. It's more open, it's permissionless. There are token economics to incentivize such innovation. And that's kind of the main reason why crypto is going to capture a lot of the value that AI creates. And to be honest, there'll be something beyond AI in 10 years' time, and crypto will still be capturing the value for those sectors as well. So crypto is the winner for whatever technology innovation occurs.
Yeah, and I wanted to close by saying I definitely think this has been said before, but AI and AI agents are going to bring on the next million set of users that are non-crypto today. I mean, today we are in our own little bubble here around consensus, but I think being able to make crypto even more accessible, because so many parts of crypto are so modular and so complicated for laymen that don't necessarily know how to navigate the space or are newer to technology, and being able to have easier usability on-ramps for people to think about choice around storage, around compute, being able to help serve up data, being able to help them learn how to trade or manage their own finances. I think those are going to be super helpful in bringing on the right type of users and really help solve a lot of the usability problems today that are so manual, that take a lot of time out of everyone that still has to use a wallet.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.